The bunker was supposed to save 300,000 people. It never saved anyone. In the final months of World War II, as Allied bombs turned German cities into rubble and ash, the Nazi regime launched one of the most ambitious construction projects in human history. They called it the Schutzbunker Program. The goal was simple and utterly insane: build concrete fortresses beneath every major city capable of sheltering the entire civilian population during air raids. Berlin alone was supposed to have 47 massive underground complexes, each one larger than a city block, each one designed to hold thousands of people for weeks at a time. Construction began in 1943. Millions of tons of concrete were poured. Entire neighborhoods were demolished to make room for ventilation shafts and emergency exits. And then, in May 1945, Germany surrendered. The war ended. The bunkers were abandoned mid-construction, and within a decade most of them had simply vanished from the earth. One bunker, however, tells a stranger story than all the rest. It was built beneath the Tiergarten district in central Berlin, directly under what is now one of the busiest intersections in the German capital. Construction records show it was nearly complete by April 1945, a sprawling complex with reinforced walls 12 feet thick, sleeping quarters for 8,000 people, medical facilities, food storage, and its own independent water supply. Soviet forces photographed the entrance in June 1945 during their occupation of Berlin. The bunker was intact. The blast doors were sealed. Everything inside was untouched. Then the photographs stop. Soviet military records from late 1945 mention the bunker's existence, but provide no details about what happened to it. By 1950, when Berlin began its post-war reconstruction, city planning documents make no reference to the structure at all. It's as though someone drew a line through it and decided to pretend it had never existed. Here's what makes this genuinely bizarre. The bunker wasn't destroyed. Demolishing a structure that size, buried that deep, with walls that thick, would have required months of work and left behind unmistakable evidence. Explosives would have damaged surrounding buildings. Excavation would have created enormous piles of rubble. None of that happened. The streets above were repaved. New buildings went up, and the bunker simply disappeared from every official record. Urban historians have tried for decades to locate it. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted in the 1990s detected what appeared to be a massive void beneath the intersection, roughly matching the bunker's reported dimensions. But when excavation permits were requested, the German government denied them without explanation. Access to wartime construction documents remains restricted. Former Soviet archives that might contain information about the bunker's fate are either classified or mysteriously incomplete. What happened to a structure large enough to hold a small town? Why would both Soviet occupiers and later German authorities go to such lengths to erase it from history? The few people who worked on the bunker's construction and survived the war are all dead now. Their testimonies, recorded in the 1970s and 80s, describe a facility far more elaborate than a simple bomb shelter. They mention sealed chambers that construction crews were forbidden to enter, military personnel guarding sections of the complex that had nothing to do with civilian protection, and supplies being moved into the bunker during the final weeks of the war that had no business being in an air raid shelter. One foreman interviewed in 1982 said something that researchers still can't explain. He claimed that in April 1945 he watched SS officers seal one entire wing of the bunker with welded steel plates, then pour concrete over the entrance. When asked what was being sealed inside, he said he didn't know, but he remembered the officers wore chemical protection suits while they worked. That detail sits in archives now, unverified and unexplainable. Chemical suits for sealing a civilian shelter? It makes no sense unless what they were sealing wasn't meant for civilians at all. The intersection today shows nothing unusual. Pedestrians cross it thousands of times daily. Cars pass overhead constantly. Beneath their feet, if the radar surveys are accurate, lies a concrete tomb the size of several city blocks. Nobody knows what's inside. Nobody seems particularly interested in finding out. But here's where the story turns genuinely unsettling. In 2003, construction workers digging a new subway line 2 blocks from the intersection broke through into an underground chamber. They weren't looking for the bunker. They didn't even know they were near it. The chamber they found was small, maybe 20 feet across, with walls showing the same construction techniques used in wartime bunkers. It was completely empty except for a single steel door set into the far wall. The door was welded shut from the inside. The construction company reported the discovery to city authorities. Engineers arrived, documented the chamber, then ordered it sealed with concrete. The subway tunnel was rerouted. No explanation was given to the construction crew. When a local newspaper tried to investigate, they were told the chamber was structurally unsound and posed a collapse risk. The story died within a week. That welded door raises questions nobody wants to answer. Why seal a door from inside a buried chamber? What were they trying to keep contained? And if this small room was connected to the larger bunker complex, what else might be down there, locked away in the darkness for nearly 80 years? Germany has spent decades confronting its wartime history. Museums, memorials, educational programs, they've worked harder than perhaps any nation to ensure the past isn't forgotten. But this bunker, this massive structure beneath one of Berlin's busiest districts, remains deliberately obscured. The government won't confirm its exact location. They won't release construction documents. They won't permit excavation. The official position is that wartime bunkers are too dangerous to explore and too expensive to excavate. But other bunkers across Berlin have been opened, studied, even converted into museums. This one alone stays sealed. The most disturbing theory, whispered among researchers but never formally published, concerns what the Nazis might have stored in those final chaotic weeks. Berlin was collapsing. Soviet forces were closing in from all sides. High-ranking officials were destroying documents, burning records, erasing evidence of crimes they knew would be prosecuted. If you needed to hide something permanently, a bunker about to be buried under a destroyed city would be the perfect location. Seal it, forget it, let the rubble and reconstruction bury it deeper. What that something might be, nobody can say with certainty. Chemical weapons, looted art, documents too sensitive to destroy but too damaging to preserve. The possibilities are endless and equally disturbing. The bunker exists. The radar confirms it. The construction records prove it was built. The photographs show it was completed. But it has vanished more thoroughly than if it had been demolished. It sits beneath Berlin like a buried secret, waiting in silence while the city above goes about its business, unaware or perhaps willfully ignorant of what lies beneath. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Some doors are welded shut for reasons that should stay forgotten. And some places, even in the heart of modern cities, remain deliberately lost. That steel door welded from the inside haunts every researcher who knows about it. You don't seal something from within unless you're trying to ensure it can never be opened again. Not from the outside, not by accident. Not ever. Berlin rebuilt itself into one of Europe's most vibrant capitals. The scars of war have mostly healed. But underneath one particular intersection, beneath the footsteps of commuters and tourists, sits a structure that powerful people decided should simply cease to exist in any official capacity. Maybe they're right. Maybe some remnants of that era are better left undisturbed, buried under concrete and silence. Or maybe we're walking over answers to questions we haven't yet learned to ask properly. The bunker remains. The city above it thrives. And somewhere in those sealed chambers, in darkness that hasn't been broken since 1945, something waits. Whether it's just empty rooms and decaying supplies or something far more significant, we may never know. Because the one thing more unsettling than discovering what's hidden in a forgotten place is realizing that someone went to extraordinary lengths to make sure you never could.